Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Review Mates review on the channel. I'm Matthew, of course, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum.
Now today we're back reviewing the latest MCU film. I think the last one we done was probably Shang-Chi, and then before that Black Widow. Now we've got the third one this year, The Eternals. It's not a group of characters I was aware of or knew a lot about. It's kind of a niche market of the MCU now, similar to how they dealt with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So if you're a big fan of those characters, I think there will be a certain translation here. But yeah, I'll pass over to you, mate, to explain just the gist of this film. It's been a while since we've done a video like this. But yeah, I'll pass over to you, mate, to describe what the film's about.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about these characters before the film was announced. I knew nothing about the film going into the film, other than the negative reviews that have been surrounding it. I had the perception that these were sort of Marvel's answer to the New Gods from DC, which I think that comparison probably does stand. So this film is about it's I think it's a film riddled in spoilers, so I will tread
Definitely.
cautiously. There is a worldwide event which the Eternals must get the band back together to sort out, and it's a cast of, I was going to say, interesting characters. I suppose that's open to interpretation with what we have to say in this episode. But it's a merry group who get back together to sort this out, and that's all that I'm going to go into because I don't want anybody to suggest that I've spoiled anything for them.
Yeah, it is it's a film really about family, as fast and furious as that sounds. Like there's a lot of characters here in a film that is very long itself. I think
Mm.
it's 2 hours 40, something like that. It is a long MCU film. But yeah, it's got a unique vibe to it because it's not it's very different from a James Gunn Guardians film, but it's quite similar to the Inhumans. If there's any fans of that, I'm sure there's not many, but if you're aware of those characters, the similarities are certainly there. So I think it's definitely a film that's divided a lot of people. I know we probably didn't find it as bad as some of the reviews did, but that being said, it's getting a lot of negative critical response compared to the positive audience reception. Really, it's really divisive there. But yeah, just before we break down into spoilers and non-spoilers, thank you very much for everyone who supported us recently. Although we haven't been putting out too many videos as of late, we really do appreciate your support, and we're going to be trying to keep reviewing the latest releases. June, Ghostbusters, Spider-Man, all those ones. So yeah, please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on the Eternals down below. We'd love to read and react to them. So yeah, Calm on. I guess just non-spoilers first, then, if you want to open the floor.
Yeah, we've continued our trend on the channel of taking a break and then amassing a certain amount of subscribers, more than we normally average, and then a massive drop off as soon as we're back.
People
Uh,
unsubscribe when they remember they subscribed us in the first place.
yeah, absolutely. I really liked what we said about the perspective that it provides because we've sort of had you mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy. We've had films that seem entirely disconnected from the rest of the films, other than brief glimmers at the likes of Thanos, and the introduction of one of the Infinity Stones. But that film really exists outside of the universe in a way that you can watch it without having seen any of the previous movies. This one is sort of an outsider looking in kind of view at the MCU, where these characters exist on the fringe of the universe, where they've been there the entire time, they've watched all these events unfold, but they couldn't interfere. And I think that's incredibly interesting. Having
Yeah.
these sort of impassive observers. It's they're kind of like the Watchers in that way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. This film kind of retroactively adds them to the canon of the MCU, similar to like how Captain Marvel approached it, really, more of a prequel tale. Just right off the bat, this is probably in my top three favorite MCU movies. I know that's really a bold statement early on, but it's not so often that I'd watch an MCU film twice in the same week and it still hold up and still I think as positively about it as I did in the first time. I really, really like this film. Strange though, because it doesn't feel anything like our typical Marvel movie, which is something that I can kind of say in the last 12 months that's pretty, consistent. Shang-Chi didn't feel like a typical Marvel movie. Black Widow certainly didn't for me either. And a lot of the
Mm.
Disney Plus shows haven't. So it seems like their format is kind of evolving and changing as it goes on. Would you say that's fair to say?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because you know it does seem to not really adhere to the traditional Marvel formula. The one originated from Iron Man. This doesn't really feel like an origin film. because it's in the context of the film established characters. So it is a really interesting take, but I was kind of just baffled watching it. And an issue that is carried over into almost all of the projects that you just mentioned there is editing issues, I think. This film sort of goes back and forwards between telling the story of the Eternals from the time they arrived on Earth to telling the story that's happening in the present day. And I think it's just done in such a breakneck, confusing, needless way, where, disconnected scenes are connected together without any context. And it just felt really, really baffling to me.
I think that's one thing I would certainly agree on, is the fact that the film's paced quite strangely, in the sense that it's got quite an interesting opening where you get to know these characters really quickly. It doesn't really mess time with that. But then there's certain scenes where characters go to different locations, especially during the middle, and things occur where it loses its pacing a lot, I find. And that's probably one of the few weak points I really, found with this film, as well as that, like, it does have a bit more flashbacks than a typical MCU film, I would say. And because there is so many characters, there's definitely ones that aren't as well fleshed out. For me, almost every character was pretty well done, but at a quite a basic level where you don't really know much else about them. You wouldn't really care less about them afterwards. I mean, so I'll just run through some of my highlights here. First off, Gemma Chan as Cersei. I really, it's very much her film, I thought, which surprised me because
she should be in everything. She makes everything better.
Yeah, she's so good, right? She's really, really good. Lauren Ridloff as well, as Makari. She's a bit more of a subtle role, but still really, really good. And of course, Richard Madden and Camille Nanjiani too. They were two really real standouts for me. Every character is kind of different. Like, there's characters that you can tell are specifically made for jokes, and characters made for really, like, sort of scene ending remarks, like in Icarus, where he kind of says something cool to the camera and then it cuts or something like that. There is some more sort of characters like that. Did you have any standouts, mate, or least favorites, or where did you stand with the characters in general?
In regards to performance and likability, yeah, I would say that my standouts were also Gemma Chan and Laura Ridloff, but I am disappointed, especially with that character Makari, because the representation within this film on paper is fantastic, and it's come away with great results, because that there have been surveys taken in the time since the film has come out, and the interest in learning sign language has apparently
that blew my mind.
raised significantly.
Yeah,
which I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's
but
class.
I think that I'd say about 8 out of 10 of the Eternals don't have enough screen time. And when you don't get to know the characters, I feel like the representation isn't as effective as it could be. We don't really learn much about Makari beyond the point that she's deaf and can run fast. So she is there for representation, and she's a fantastic character. But I just don't think we saw enough of her. So I'm hoping that she's made a real focal point of the sequel if one comes out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. This film actually makes strangely, it's like the big name actors that don't necessarily have the most screen time. Like, you see a film with Salma Hayek and Angelina Jolie and think, okay, this is their film, but it's not really. Of course they have a lot of screen time compared to on Makari, for example, but this is very much Gemma Chan and Richard Madden's film for me. It's very much them two in the center, and of course they're big name actors too. But it is nice to see that these ensembles, they don't have to have huge names to carry them. There's a lot of actors in here who I haven't seen in anything else before, and it's definitely encouraged me to definitely watch some of their other work. That being said, it's just the villains for me that don't really reach the level of our heroes here. It's a problem that the MCU hasn't really had for a while, in my opinion. It's more of like an older Marvel film criticism, that, but I just felt, for me, the deviants obviously marketed in the trailers. I just didn't really, I wasn't fussed really on them personally.
Yeah, and they don't get a lot of screen time or development, which I think is an issue across the film, which is just surprising for the runtime. I was speaking to someone about this in comparison to Guardians of the Galaxy, how that effectively built this small team and established these characters as a family within one film, and how in my opinion, this one didn't measure up to that. And they said, well, it's twice the number of characters. And I'm like, well, yeah, but they chose that. They could have just made a team of 5 Eternals, and then the film would be, much tighter and probably better executed. But I do think one real positive I can give this is I think it's a massive improvement on the standard of CGI. I would say the only thing that you could question is Crow, the leader of the Deviants, as seen in the trailers. But I think he's meant to look horrific. So do you think it gets a pass?
I think you're spot on in terms of the CGI is really excellent here. And the film's so beautifully shot as well. It's mostly shot on location, which I think is a big benefit in terms of, you can tell certain movies like, as much as I love this film, like Captain Marvel is a movie where you can tell it's very much shot in a studio, if you get me. Whereas this film, it's very much on location for the most part, which I thought was fantastic. But yeah, I think the CGI is pretty good. And I think you're right. I think Crow is probably the on the one hand, definitely the hardest character to CGI, but also, you've made him look that way. So if you're going to CGI him, CGI him well, I guess. But yeah, probably the weakest CGI, but still pretty decent.
Yeah, he kind of has, one of those flat faces, like, the lizard in the Amazing Spider-Man, and some of the orcs and stuff from the likes of the Hobbit, where they just have that sort of big nose, smooth face kind of situation. It was a movie that I really enjoyed. I can't put into words a lot of my feelings about it because I was sort of just bewildered. I watched it and I was
It's a lot to take in, man. It definitely is.
I really can't put it into words, but I was watching it thinking, what am I watching at points? And then my conclusion by the end of it was, I mean, I don't know what I was watching, but it was good. So I was perfectly satisfied with it, even if it maybe, well, I didn't have any expectations for it to live up to. So I think that's maybe where other people fell into a difficult situation where they thought this is going to be something new and different, and the director had all the prestige behind her because of her big Oscar win earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But I had no expectations for this. I didn't watch any of the trailers, and I was pleasantly surprised. I think that this is one situation where reviews really helped for me, because I don't really take much weight or give much weight to reviews, which I suppose is a bit hypocritical when we do reviews ourselves. But hearing that this had such a bad reception, I went in with even lower expectations than just the complete level of indifference that I normally approach. So it massively blew out of the water the expectations I had off the back of those.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'd be very interested to see how the casual moviegoer who isn't a Marvel fan, makes of this film. Obviously, we're Marvel fans at this point.
I think it would be absolute nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, we went in with the surface level of, we know roughly, we know roughly what's at stake here in the terms of, it is going to be more of a tale similar to a Guardians of the Galaxy, for example. But if you're just a casual moviegoer who just wants to see an action flick and you watch this, it gives you a little bit of a Star Wars-esque description at the beginning, to be fair, without giving too much away. But other than that, you would be confused, I think, 100%, especially with the amount of characters there. You've got, what is it? I don't know how many there is, probably 10 Eternals, 12, I'm not sure. There's a lot of characters there.
Yeah, I think so.
But for the most part, I think they did it well.
Yeah, I think we didn't know anything about the Eternals, but we knew that the film is going to do its job in explaining that to us. But I think if you go in knowing nothing about superhero films in general, especially the MCU, the celestial and cosmic side of the film would just be absolute nonsense.
Yeah. I feel the same. That being said, Callum, I don't have anything more to say on non-spoiler remarks. If you've got anything.
Nothing else for me. So I suppose the question that remains, Matthew, that we haven't asked for a fair few weeks, is this film a massive hit or a piece of shit?
Well, it's definitely a massive hit. As I said, top 3 Marvel movies for me. Although I can recognize its flaws and things like that, I just love the variety and the diversity of the characters. There's some really funny moments in there too, and it's so refreshingly beautiful to look at. Marvel movies are getting better at that. I think they're becoming a bit more visually distinct. This one's gorgeous though. It really is. Chloe Zhao did a really good job here. So yeah, it's a massive hit for me, man. What about yourself?
Yeah, I always struggle to remember what my last piece of shit was. I think it must have been Cinderella. I must have given that a piece of shit because I just felt that was torturous. So this film, I watched it, had low expectations. You had told me that you had a high opinion of it, having seen it before I did. I went in, no expectations, open mind, really enjoyed it. Gemma Chan, I think, just adds something to everything she's in, and it's great to see her popping up in more stuff. I think she's incredibly charming, and Crazy Rich Asians is a fantastic film that I think she shines in, especially, which I would highly recommend that film. I don't have anything further on non-spoilers, so massive hit for me, of course. And on to the spoiler section. So turn off if you have not seen
Yes,
Eternals,
turn off.
because this is a spoiler-heavy film, I reckon.
Oh,
I would say
100%.
it's probably the one that could be most easily ruined, I'd say, since Captain America: The Winter Soldier, I reckon. Because I think if you know that Hydra's infiltrated Shield, I think that movie's ruined for you. There's kind of
Not much else
nothing to
there.
get from
Yeah.
that, at least as
Yeah.
a first time viewer. And here, I think if you know, once again, final spoiler warning, that Icarus is secretly, an antagonistic figure, I think that would really reduce your enjoyment of the film as a first time viewer.
Yeah, that Icarus twist really surprised me, but I love it all the same. It's something where I think on a read, like I said, watched it with you the second time, you can definitely notice, little bits and pieces in there that point towards it. Like it's not a complete misdirect where you can think, oh, whoa, that just come out of nowhere. The character is sort of, he comes across as a bit
He's a
of a prick,
knobhead.
a bit of a prick throughout
Yeah.
the film, where you kind of want them to be a villain, if you get me. So like when they were all beating the shit out of him at the end, I was like, yes, he deserves this. You know what I mean? Like 100%. What do you think of it in
Yeah.
general?
Yeah, one of my favorite moments in any kind of entertainment is when, a whole team of people just pummels the shit out of one person. We had
Yeah.
that with Ultravision at the end of What If, and we had that in It with Pennywise. And I just love any scene that ends up that way. Yeah, I sort of struggled to put this into words, because I was not surprised at all that he was evil, because he was an incredibly unlikable character, and you're like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But I was surprised that they did it. Like I don't know. I never went in thinking this film, a Marvel film, is going to make Richard Madden the villain. But when I watched the film, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So like it wasn't like, oh my god, what? But it was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. I see what you're
yeah, fair
saying there.
dues. But up to that point, I had no idea. So I just thought up to that point that they just accidentally created an incredibly unlikable character. But I guess they were just sowing the seeds. But then, do you think they committed to that too much? Because if you sow the seeds too much, you sort of ruin it. Because if you
Ruin it, yeah.
go, yeah, he was already an unlikable character, so I mean, him having murdered someone, it kind of takes him, down further, in my opinion. But it was never high to begin with. So I mean, do you think they committed too strongly to making him unlikable?
It's interesting because he's kind of characterized as this like Superman figure in the MCU. A lot of his actions, obviously, that they make that comparison themselves here. He comes across as very, just a bit unlikable, just a bit just stuck up. You know what I mean? So I can definitely see why
Yeah.
he's characterizing as the antagonist here. The thing that I find interesting as well is that he's not exactly redeemed by the end. You know what I mean? That
Mhm.
he doesn't have like I mean, he does a little bit, but if you get me, by the end, we kind of had a mutual sort of consideration of that he probably just killed himself by the end. I mean, it's not.
Yeah,
I had to look at this on
and
Wikipedia just to make
that's
sure, and
Marvel's first suicide.
it doesn't really explain clearly what it is. I mean, Icarus by the name of the character, I guess that trope makes sense, but I wasn't too sure.
Mhm.
Like they kind of just say, yeah, he is the villain of this film. Where the characters forgive him, but he's moved on to other things. But no, by the end, it just flies into the sun, and that's him. So it's an unusual decision there. I think it's a character they very easily could bring back for a Guardians film, very easily, or a Thor film if they wanted to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think the good part about that twist is the idea of a traitor amongst them. I just think if you'd had one of the likable characters, like imagine if you changed that and it was Camille Nanjiani's character. It's this funny, likable character who seemed to just be, you know, sort of an underling almost to Icarus, and then you have him be the big traitor. Like I feel like that works better.
Yeah, and that's certainly. I mean, that character is certainly the highlight of the film for me as well, humor wise. So that would have been that would have been exceptional if they would have pulled that off.
Because I
Yeah,
mean, you don't make it like, you know, I think the not obvious part of the twist is that there is a traitor. But if you said to someone, oh, if you said going into the film, someone's a traitor in the film, guess who it is? You'd be like, all right, it's Icarus then. But then you also might go the other way and go, right, who's going to be the least obvious one? And I suppose in my mind, the least obvious one would be Kingo. So who's like the middle ground? Who
I
you would
think
have been like,
I think like Druig. I think he's kind of
oh
like
no,
the
he'd already enslaved a whole town of people.
yeah, that's true. I mean,
He's
what I
kind
like
of
about this,
most of them are bad guys by the end of the film. Like they're kind of all just
well,
varying
that's it.
shades. I mean, I suppose you live thousands of years. You're gonna have done all the good things and all the bad things. I suppose just to keep life interesting.
Well, that's it. They have kind of refreshing, debate about themselves, and during a midway point in the film, where like they kind of think, yeah, we are the bad guys. Like we've just helped, you know, uh, kill millions of people on planets just so billions of people could be born, kind of thing. So they don't shy away from these characters' dark sides. Obviously, we've got Druig, who he's kind of redeemed by the end, but yeah, at the start he clearly resents certain members of the group, and I think Sprite is the like the Eternal who's like always a child. That character comes off as quite annoying throughout the film for me. I feel bad saying that, but it's not because like the actor is young or anything like that. Like she did a good
No,
job, but I,
but for a
just the
character
way she
who's
was
like
written.
stomping her foot and being like, "Why can't I be an adult?" And I'm like, "Well, if you want to look like an adult, at least like you're saying, oh, you deserve to be an adult because you've lived all these years as long as everybody else, but you haven't like developed the personality or had
Right,
the
right.
or you don't have the self-awareness of someone who has lived that full life. So yeah, I don't know that she really deserved to be angry about that.
It's interesting because a lot of the characters seem to have this sort of villainous presence to them. Thena certainly has that throughout the film. She's kind of the antagonistic force where the team has to kind of fight her, because she's having these sort of flashbacks. Um, Angelina Jolie, by the way, like I haven't seen a lot of stuff, but she's really good here. Her accent's a bit hard to pinpoint, I find at times, but for the most part, like her action scenes
Yeah,
are really well done. And that's the thing about
I
this.
mean, she's either going for English or Australian.
That's the thing about this. Like a lot of the different characters have really refreshing and dynamic action sequences. Icarus seeing like laser vision and things like that in an MCU film is rare. You know what I mean? Makari super speed. It's interesting, and
Hmm.
and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of refreshing elements about this film where I think the action is exceptional. It's right up there with Shang-Chi for me and those kind of films, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's a really fantastic film. I actually, other than the post-credit scenes, I actually don't have anything else to say.
I just have just one more thing to say. Just before we head into the credit scenes, which are pretty big. The film kind of sets up a Icarus and Cersei romance, and that kind of leads the film for the most part. And I really do like what they do there. Like it's well fleshed out for the most part, and I can tell there's a little bit of a connection there, 100%. They also this film introduces I think his name's Dane Whiteman or Whitman, or I can't remember what his surname
Hmm.
is, but
Whitman, yeah.
Black Knight, and they kind of have a Dane Cersei romance at the start, and the film tries to suggest that it's the film almost at the start hints towards a love triangle, but Dane and Icarus never really meet again after that.
Hmm.
Is there any relationship you particularly preferred? Because I really do like the Dane and Cersei romance personally. I think that's much more endearing. What about you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Cersei and Icarus are kind of like that couple where the other where the guy sort of just kept asking her out until she said yes. Like she's only going out with him because he's the only option. Like Dane is only going to live another 60 years, but in theory Icarus would have gone on and they would live the same lifespan. So she thinks that they're soulmates just because they both are in the same circumstance. But I mean, there's like nothing redeeming about him. Uh, they have the weird sex scene on the beach, but like you just think. I think in every other moment you're like there's not a second where you feel any kind of connection or warmth between the two of them.
Mhm.
They seem like they just got together because they're both attractive and immortal.
Yeah, yeah. I think I would have loved to see Dane Whitman in a project. I know we're getting a Black Knight project, but I would have loved to see more of him in this film. I think Kit Harington is really
Hmm.
good. Like he's fantastic, in the limited time he has here. But that being said, no, I don't have anything major to say before we head into the. Before we head, actually, I do have one more thing. I do enjoy the look of the Celestials here. The
Oh,
Celestials, a huge big alien in the sky could have come across really badly, like it did in Fantastic Four, 2000 and whatever the second one, Galactus. But here it works really well. It showed me personally that Galactus could be done in an MCU film very well, I think.
see, this is what I'm wondering because I feel like the introduction of Galactus after having introduced Dormammu and the Celestials is going to be like introducing the X-Men as, being like freaks, even though, everybody likes everybody that has powers in the MCU. So I feel like introducing the X-Men as these kind of outcasts is going to be very difficult. And then I think introducing this world-eating being is going to be difficult because there's always like a higher power that would have taken him down in theory.
Yeah, I see what you're
And if
saying.
he's just like, like a tall man in space, and he's devouring planets, you would think that that's really quaint in comparison to the power and the scope of the Celestials, and I feel like it's just going to be really really difficult to balance that.
Yeah, the MCU is certainly going to have that problem, especially with having done Thanos quite early on, in the sense that where do you go from here? Like every threat up until this point seems a bit lackluster. Luckily for this film, it's kind of it has that previous history where a lot of the film is set before the events of the snap, where it makes sense. But films like Black Widow or Shang-Chi, to an extent, like they feel sort of a bit lackluster in the sense that after you have the spectacle that was Infinity War and Endgame, where do you go from here? And that's where films like No Way Home and Doctor Strange 2 and Thor 4 really excite me, because they do seem like they're pushing the boundaries and they really are going into that multiversal stuff, it appears. So that really excites me. But yeah, that's all I have to say for this film, apart from the end credit scenes. So shall we hop on in with those?
I was just going to ask, does that mean that you prefer the event films?
I prefer the event films in terms of, if you're going to have this huge action spectacle, and you're going to have all these characters culminate in this huge event, 100%. But I films like the Eternals, where it feels like a middle ground for me, where you've got the high stakes, but also you've got the core emotional themes where you can flesh out the characters a bit more than an event film, for example. Like Endgame was an incredible film for me, but it's I think it's quite fortunate in the sense that the characters were already fleshed out in films before it anyway, so there's no real reason to do that there. Iron Man had 3 films, Captain America did, Thor did, you know what I mean? So there was less of them to do there in terms of making you like them. Whereas Eternals, this is the first time you're seeing some of these guys, so you have to make us like them by fleshing them out. So I think it balanced the middle ground really nicely, and I'm excited to see how future projects where it's lesser known characters handle that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've warmed to Endgame, but I do think when it comes to the characters, like the only thing it does is cause damage to the reputations of a lot of the heroes. And I still feel that way, even though I'm like, yeah, it's a good time. It's a fun story. I enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
But I can't get behind some of the portrayals of the characters. I mean, I'm more excited for Spider-Man No Way Home than I've been excited for any film in years. But that's because it's a Spider-Man event film, not because it's a Marvel event film.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just excited for Spider-Man. I mean, even if Toby and Andrew aren't in it, we're getting the villains, and honestly, Thomas Haden-Church. If we're seeing Thomas Haden-Church, I'm happy.
100%, 100%.
I think weirdly that is the one I'm most excited for out of
Oh,
the Sinister
completely,
Six.
completely. I mean, Thomas
I mean, that makes no
Haden-Church.
sense.
I absolutely love that guy. I hope. I mean, I have a real. I like. I just have a real feeling like there's gonna be a few characters in there where like it's gonna even be more surprise. I really hope Thomas Haden-Church is in it. I mean, he's confirmed to be in it. I don't know why I'm saying that. Like, I hope he's in it. Like, I just hope he's in it like for a decent amount of
Well,
time.
Sandman's confirmed to be in it. They could do something tricksy where they just didn't want to put
Yeah, they
Thomas
could.
Haden-Church.
They could. They
I mean,
could.
I feel like someone suggested that they're just not going to pay like resci fans, and they're just going to do like just the CGI lizard and just have him like grunt and stuff, so you don't even have to pay him. I wonder if obviously we talk a little bit about actors having like ownership over the 3D scans of their own face,
Yeah.
but is like the lizard CGI far enough away from resci fans' actual face for them to use that without
I don't
being
know.
litigated?
I don't know. Like, is like Thomas Haden-Church's face in sand form? Like, is that his face? Like, I don't
I
know.
feel like that's like a 3D like a 3D CGI rendering of a person. But I mean, it's not like, I mean, I think Reese fans would be offended if you suggested that he looked like a lizard. So I mean, I don't know that he can take ownership over how the lizard looks in the Amazing Spider-Man to be like, well, that's just my face as a lizard.
I tell you what,
Like I
like
feel like that'd get thrown out of court.
I saw a few, like, these like set photos where like it's so could it could like very easily just be fake, but like some of
Yeah.
them had like well, I saw one that looked like it was Charlie Cox Daredevil, which I'm not sure if that
Hmm.
is the case, but I'm sure you've seen that one. It looks
Yeah.
it looks pretty real to me, but at the same time it could very easily be photoshopped. I mean, we know how
Okay.
often that is these days. What are your
So
thoughts?
would you put some time codes down below so that people don't get
Certainly.
any spoilers?
Yes, certainly,
So this
certainly.
is just commenting on those leaked photos. So John Campia, who is,
A
a
well-known
film
YouTuber, I
reviewer
would say. Like,
on
it's
YouTube.
quite well known.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he's definitely of note. And he said that he'd been emailed these photos. He thought they were fake, so he puts them on Twitter. And I'm like, well, why would you do that? Why would you go like, look at these fake images? It's like, well, why would you even bother? Wouldn't you just ignore the
Yeah,
email?
certainly.
I think he clearly, put them up thinking they were real, and then found out they were real, and then is now backtracking to stay out of trouble with Sony. Just, oh, I thought they were fake.
That
But
old chestnut.
oh, also, like, I'm very confused because he watermarked them, which, he made the comment that, like, well, why would I watermark them if I thought they were real? Because then that opens me up to, like, being sued, and they immediately have evidence that it's me because I've watermarked it. But why would you watermark them if they're fake? If they're fake, why are you worried about them being stolen? Like, it's not your, and like, how can he
Yeah.
even watermark them? Like, they're not his property. Someone sent them to him. So why does he think he can take ownership over them? But Grace Randolph, who I have unsubscribed since she spoiled certain things about Spider-Man
Yes.
No Way Home.
Yes.
Like, not she wasn't doing scoops. Like, she spoiled something in one of her videos, and she spoiled the end credit scene of Venom. So I have unsubscribed from from her YouTube channel, but I had seen on her Twitter that she has suggested that they are real, and she said that because I saw the Charlie Cox one, and people were saying, "Oh, I think the Charlie Cox one looks real, but the Spider-Man one I'm a bit dubious about." And I was the complete
I was the
opposite.
opposite way around. I thought
I was like,
The
the Charlie
Toby
Cox one
face
looks
looked real.
fake as shit.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the reason for that is she says that that's previs. And I thought that, previs, where they sort of map out the shots of the film, I thought that that was sort of done with CGI, but apparently, it can also be done with Photoshop. Well, probably more, probably more a professional
Similar to
program, but
that, yeah. Certainly similar.
essentially the equivalent of Photoshop, where they just, put the, images of the actors together. So I suppose that does make a level of sense. If you can imagine that that's true, that does make a level of sense that, it looks fake because they have literally photoshopped a picture of Charlie Cox into that, but it's in preparation for actually, actually doing that shot in
Yes.
real life.
Yeah.
That does make a level of sense to me. But, suppose it's all just hearsay until the day.
Well, that's it. I mean, I certainly found that the leaked photo of the three Spider-Men
That looked real to me.
it looked like the realest one yet, if I'm honest. It looked the realest one yet, just because it matches up with videos you've seen of Andrew Garfield, and certainly Toby looks a bit older in it. Like, it's not a recent
Hmm.
photo of Toby, or sorry, it's
And
not
his haircut matches.
it's I was gonna say, it's not like
Hmm.
a 2007 Toby. It's certainly not. So
Hmm.
I'm inclined to believe that that one is real, if I'm honest. Although I'm interested to hear Grace Randolph sort of authenticate John Campia's photos there, because I think those two for a long time had beef on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. So they did
Yeah, I mean, she
over.
wasn't saying like, "Oh yeah, John Campy is a good journalist because he got these photos." Because
Yeah.
I mean, he literally just got them emailed to him. I mean, yeah, I'm very confused. I mean, I don't want someone sending this to Grace Randolph and then we have beef. But I mean,
We could do with those
I mean, maybe you do
subscribers,
want
to be
that.
fair.
I don't know. I don't want that because I did watch a lot of her videos, and I think she
Yes.
makes high quality videos. But I mean, someone telling you information isn't like journalism. I mean, she's like, she does make tweets like, "Ha, I told you this first. here's evidence that I scooped this before anyone else. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I could post something on Twitter if someone that was on the set of Spider-Man No Way Home told me something. Like, I don't think that has anything to do with. I mean, I suppose your reputation as a journalist gets you those sources.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can say, I did a good job of journalism by getting these scoops. Like, someone has just told you that. Like, there isn't like a level of investigation there. It's like it just someone tells you that's true or not.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Grace Randolph definitely knows what she's talking about. Like, she knows her stuff, but that also is like a poison chalice in the sense that, yeah, she knows her stuff, but she knows too much. Like, maybe don't say
Yeah.
as much about these things. Certainly, sport and
Yeah,
film is out of order.
I really love her videos about the film industry and like box office numbers and how that's
Certainly.
influenced by certain certain facets of the industry. Like I find that stuff really interesting. And out of morbid curiosity, obviously, I had watched some of the videos that were about the confirmation of Charlie Cox, etc. Because I mean, I'm gonna hear it anyway on Instagram or
Yeah.
on Facebook
Or other
because
channels too.
I'm amongst all those communities on those apps. So I mean, there was no way for me to avoid that. I think I've avoided the level of spoilers for No Way Home that you have, but probably only marginally. I mean, you sort of said that you sought some of them out.
I definitely did. I definitely openly admit that. But in the fact, this is going to sound mental, but like I've actively sought so many out that it was that long ago that I've forgotten them. So if I were told them again, it would actively surprise me. I remember a time in my life where
Oh my
like,
god, it's Tobey Maguire.
but like, I remember a time in my life where I would watch Grace Randolph like every day after school. Like I was a big fan. Like I haven't watched her in a while, but like I really
Oh
liked her
god, we've
videos.
talked about her way too much. Like this is just gonna cause issues for us.
But one thing I would say about the photos, Sony's security, man, sort it out. I
Fucking
mean,
hell.
what's happening here? Like, Jesus.
I mean, I'd seen comments again from Grace Randolph that apparently it's because they are the visual effects artists are under such time pressure with the release being kept for December 17th that they've sort of had to outsource to maybe less reliable
Okay.
sources.
Okay.
So I imagine that's how the trailer got leaked. Because that still had the watermark left on it from whatever employee that was taken from. So I suppose there are some people who are just more willing to give out information when they've been less heavily researched by the company employing them.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Mate, just before we wrap up the review, did you want to hop in with the thoughts on the credit scenes in general then, just
Yeah.
before we conclude? Two pretty big ones. What way around were they? I think the first one was the Eternals in space, if I'm correct. So obviously the film ends with with what's the celestial called? It's like Amisham. No, what's his name? Arisham.
Arishem.
Arisham. He sort of kidnaps Cersei, Kingo, and the other guy. What's his name? I forget.
Bastos?
Yes, Bastos. So he's kind of got them, and the other ones are on the ship, and we're introduced to two new MCU characters we haven't seen before. One of them, well, both of them aren't really well-known ones. I had only heard of one of them briefly. Pip the Troll and Eros or Star Fox, I think he's called in the comics. I think he's like Thanos' brother or something.
Yeah.
Played by Harry Styles.
Remains to be seen how that's going to be explained.
Yeah.
The brother relationship there.
Yeah, played by Harry Styles. Now, one thing I said in the cinema is that I wouldn't be a big fan of these celebrity cameo castings or celebrity castings. But one thing I would say here is it works so well. It's quite similar to how like I think Lady Gaga has been cast really, really well in certain films. Like House of Gucci looks like that's her film. Like it looks like really well cast. Same with Stars Born. It's exceptional. I think here could be a real game changer really for the MCU and also for Harry Styles. Like Harry Styles is a huge name, and to get him in an MCU film, that's a massive plus for both of them. Like I can't wait to see what they do with it, to be honest. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it really on paper does seem like a stunt casting to get teenage girls into the cinema, or his very wide fan base of everybody. I mean, I enjoy his music as well.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
And on paper I think you think Pop Idol joins the MCU as a bid to like bring in a younger viewership. and you do think, oh, that does seem a bit cheap. But Harry Styles just oozes charisma, and it is just such a surprise that he is a good actor. And I think, you know, I think that that's apparent in his very brief screen time, and I'm incredibly excited about it. I saw this film 3 days after the release, so I was sort of expecting a level of spoilers. But this appearance, for it being an end credit scene and it being clearly meaning to be like a huge moment within the film, you're meant to go, "Oh my God, it's Harry Styles!" And there was a girl, a few rows in front of us who said that. But they revealed this weeks ago. Like
Yeah,
they revealed this in the press junkets weeks ago. Like
yeah,
imagine, I assume Kevin Feige was fucking pissed because they try to really keep hush hush on the post credit scenes, and up until the point that you spoiled it for me right before it played, I had no idea that Mahershala Ali was in the second one,
yeah.
and in the first one. I just think it would have been a huge moment had I not known. When did you hear about it?
I can't remember. I think it was maybe a few days before, and one of the I think like New Rockstars had put up his like New Rockstars is a really good channel. We're starting beef with channels here. New Rockstars is a great channel, but sometimes like they do the classic thing of clickbait of putting the end credit scene photo in the thumbnail. They did it with Venom. They did it with
Yeah.
this film. I get it. I get that. They're really good at what they do. Like they have in-depth breakdowns. I would recommend anyone to check them out. But I think I must have seen it from them. But I think it's a pretty huge casting actually. And with that, you mentioned the Mahershala Ali voice cameo there. That end credit scene suggested to me about, it seems like Dane's becoming Black Knight. Now, I'm not sure if Black Knight is confirmed to be a TV show or a movie. I'm not sure if what they're doing with that.
I was not aware that he was getting a project of his own. I assumed they were just going to fold him into either future Eternals films or potentially have a team up with Blade or a Marvel Knight situation. I hadn't heard anything about
I probably
a
made that up
spin-off
then. I
project.
probably made that up, or I've been misinformed somehow. But that being said, I still think the character is, it's a very easy. It's a very easy character to transition into something else, into a different project.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily a character I'd think would work with the Eternals, and it does really well. So, I'd be very interested to see a Black Knight project personally, especially with Kit Harington on board.
Yeah, I think like him running around, I don't really know much about the Black Knight, but I assume he's a vigilante for justice and maybe he knocks about on a horse. I don't really know. But that sort of that being directly opposed with like this cosmic side of the films, I'm not sure that it works beyond this film. Because here he hasn't become that fully formed persona yet.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how they're going to fold those in together in the near future. But I suppose the real question is this film going to get a sequel? Because Disney
Mm.
Disney works on numbers and they know like what's successful and what's not. They'll do sequels to shit films because they made a huge amount of money, and maybe they'll not do a sequel to a good film because it didn't make a lot of money or because the critical reviews were low. So I'm just curious, do you think we're going to get a sequel, or do you think they're just going to be the highlight characters of the film? Do you think are just going to be folded into like the Marvel cosmic films, like the future Thor films?
I don't think it'll get a sequel in terms of a direct sequel for a film, but I definitely could see them doing like a Disney Plus prequel or something, or a Disney Plus continuation with. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they could do a Disney Plus show on the scale with these 12 characters. Well, obviously not 12 now that they killed some off, but I don't think they could have the amount of characters that they have and do a show with it. I think they'd have to probably stick with a few, but that's gonna piss some people off. It's hard to get an ideal, 4 or 5 characters who could headline a show. I think obviously you'd have to have Gemma Chan in there for a start. I think she's integral to it. But like there's characters like like Makari, where like I would really want them to do something with in the future, but I worry that they wouldn't, just because the popularity maybe isn't there. But that being said, like I would love there to be a sequel for this because it's one of my favorite MCU films. I love the diversity. I love how refreshing it feels, how it doesn't really feel like a superhero film for me. It's that well shot, it's that well directed, and I would love to see something like that again. I see its future in Disney Plus though, I really do, and like you said, I think it's very possible for characters like Sprite and Kingo and Druig to be in other space films like Guardians or Thor or whatever they decide to do.
Yeah, I'm curious. I think Sprite's story is maybe over because I think her full arc was wanting to be human, becoming human. So I don't really think you need to go much beyond that. Obviously, you mentioned Ajak is dead, and so is Gilgamesh. So now we're left with, and so is Icarus. So we're now left with like 6 of the 10. So I mean, you could have that be like two subplots, then supplemented with the main plot of some other character's film. They could be a huge feature in some other character's film, like in the way that the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to be for Thor: Love and Thunder. I presume, probably for just the first act, or maybe not even that much. But I'd heard a suggesting that maybe Arisham is actually in the comics, Arisham the judge. So it could be some kind of court proceeded over by the living tribunal, that character that was teased in Loki and that is a big part of the comics. So
Yeah.
that could take place in any cosmic film. I mean, it could cut to it even in a sort of comedic way, in the way they did with the Watchers in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. They could just go past and you see Cersei just getting her head chopped off or something by Arisham the judge. You can make light of it. I mean, obviously that'd be a horribly anticlimactic ending to a lovable set of characters. But if that's all that we've got, go with something, I guess.
I think it would be a real shame if we don't get to see more of Cersei and Fastos and Makari and characters like that, because I've grown to love them so much in such a short time span. I think despite how long the film is actually, but yeah, I think I definitely think we'll see some of them again. I'm not sure we'll see all of them. I think Icarus is a character they could very easily bring back and say, "Oh, he didn't actually die. He was just having a moment of reflection or something." Or the old Superman
He went
arc of
straight into it, but he was just absorbing
it was
its
just
energy.
yeah, it's the old Superman absorbing solar radiation or whatever it is. He does, yeah. I don't have any more to say on the film yet, unless you have.
Nothing else for me. I suppose we could talk about the next films that we're going to be talking about. So
Yeah,
the big ones that are coming out soon, you mentioned earlier, we've got the Ghostbusters Afterlife coming out,
looks good.
and we have not reviewed Dune as of yet. I have had the pleasure and the torture of having seen not only the 2021 version of Dune in the cinema, but also in the cinema the 1984 version. So if I can rope Matthew into watching the 1984 version, we can do a wee comparison there, because I'm
Definitely.
very curious to see. I am still undecided as to whether watching the 1984 version made my viewing experience of the 2021 version better, because obviously I'm thinking, well, yes, obviously this is a better telling of the story, but I also now know how the story plays out, and to a certain degree, the 2021 version isn't as exciting because it's not dumb and fun and stupid and nonsensical. It's kind of just what it is, which is not necessarily the kind of thing that I would be the target audience of.
Yeah, there's plenty of good films coming up this year, 100%. I think, like you said, we'll do Ghostbusters, we'll do a June comparison, and then by the time we probably do those two of the next few weeks, it'll be Spider-Man time, and that's when
Yeah,
that'll be a huge video for us, I think, because I think we're just both so
it'll be
excited
three
for it.
hours long.
Oh man, it's gonna be so long. We might even have to do something in person for that. It's that big of an occasion. It's that big. And then of course, by the time that comes out, it's Christmas. So we did a Christmas special last year. I'd imagine they'd want to do something like that again, which I think will be real fun. And and yeah, I mean, it's gonna be an exciting time. Thanks very much for everyone supporting us. As I say, we haven't put out those videos recently, but we're trying to have a bit more. So we're trying to put out a little bit there just to keep you entertained. But yeah, thanks very much, Callum, for today, mate. Great, good to be recording with you
Thank you.
again. And as I say, thanks very much for yours. You guys are the best. Thank you very much for everyone who's recently subscribed too. I think we got like 4 over the last few days, which is rare for us. So thanks very much. And yeah, hope you guys are all well. Hope your family and friends are all safe and well too. Take care, and bye-bye.
Bye.